the single undeniable fact and the universal fear. Of all the truths that reason presents to us, none is as undeniable as our mortality. And yet, of all fears, none is as paralyzing as the fear of death, Thanatos. Stoicism, being the philosophy of reality, addresses this inevitability not with fantasy or empty consolation, but with brutal logic and immediate practice. Death is not just the end of everything. It is the frame that gives value to every moment. Without finitude, time would be an infinite resource and therefore valueless. Stoic philosophy forces us to face death not as a future tragedy, but as a practical tool for virtuous living in the present. In this video, we will perform an analysis of the Stoic logic on death, investigating why the true evil is not dying, but the waste of life, Seneca's central thesis. We will explore the practice of Memento Mori as a form of prosoche, attention, and, crucially, confront Stoicism with its main rival in antiquity regarding the fear of death, Epicureanism, which sought tranquility, ataraxia, through the absence of pain, in contrast to Stoic virtue. Thanatos, the logic of fear and Epictetus's argument. The fear of death is, for the Stoic, a fundamental error of judgment, a pathos, destructive passion, that must be dismantled by reason. The dichotomy applied to death. Death, the fact of dying, is an external indifferent, entirely outside our control. The only evil is vice. Therefore, to fear death is to fear something uncontrollable that cannot stain our virtue. If your intention is virtuous, death at any moment is merely the conclusion of a job well done. The argument of non-existence, Epictetus Stoic and, in part, Epicurean logic converges at this point. Death is the cessation of experience. Where I am, death is not, and where death is, I am not. It is irrational to fear a state that cannot be experienced. The pain of dying is what we fear, but that pain, like all indifference, must be faced with courage and temperance, and is itself a finite event. The focus on living. The Stoic shifts the focus of concern. We should not fear the day of death, but rather the fact that we have not lived virtuously until that day. The true tragedy is to find oneself at the end of life and realize that one has lived without reason, without purpose, and without honor. The fear of death is, in fact, a disguise for the fear of having wasted life. The true evil. The tragedy of wasted time, Seneca. Seneca's masterpiece, On the Shortness of Life, De Brevitate Vitae, is the definitive Stoic treatise on the value of time. He argues that life is not short. We are the ones who make it short by wasting it. The illusion of scarcity. Seneca confronts us with the illusion that we are poor in time. He says, "We have not received a short life, but we have made it short. We are not ill-supplied, but wasteful. Time is the only good that everyone receives on equal terms, but it is traded for distractions and empty occupations." The busy, occupati. Seneca vehemently criticizes the occupati, those who are busy seeking external indifference, wealth, favors, pleasures, and thus are never present for themselves. They live in the future in hope, or in the past in regret, and rob themselves of the only real time, the present, the domain of prosoche. The sole owner of time, the Stoic man is the only one who truly owns his time, for he dedicates every moment to the single purpose that is under his control, the perfection of his soul, virtue. He is the only one to live a long life, for he has lived every moment with rational intention and purpose. Memento Mori. The use of mortality as an ethical tool. Memento Mori, remember that you will die, is not a funereal meditation. It is a tool of ethical urgency, the application of prosoche and the dichotomy. The focus on action. The reminder of death has a dual and paradoxical function. Dichotomy. It reminds us that life is alone and indifferent, that can be called back at any moment. This destroys attachment and the illusion of permanence. Virtue. It forces immediate action. If this were your last day, would you spend your time in anger, gossip, or the pursuit of money? Memento Mori is the practice that leads us to ask, what virtue does this moment demand? Live each day in its totality. Seneca advises, we should live each day as if it were a whole. The day should be closed like a book that is complete and cannot be stained by the next day. Memento Mori transforms the present into a unit of virtuous action, an end in itself. The rejection of procrastination. The practice of Memento Mori is the antidote to procrastination. Procrastination assumes there will be an infinite future. Memento Mori shatters this assumption and demands that virtuous action be taken now, because the guarantee of tomorrow is an uncontrollable fantasy. Philosophical contrast I. Stoicism versus Epicureanism. The two most important Hellenistic schools were Stoicism and Epicureanism. Both sought tranquility, ataraxia, but their paths regarding death and pleasure were fundamentally opposed. Epicureanism, absence of pain for Epicurus, the supreme end of life is ataraxia, absence of disturbance of the soul, and Aponia, absence of physical pain. Death is the end of sensation. Therefore, death is not an evil. The Epicurean deals with the fear of death by the simple logical deconstruction of the sensation of pain. Pleasure, hedon, is the only good and pain the only evil, but pleasure is defined as the absence of pain. Virtue is a means to achieve tranquility. Stoicism, the love of fate. The Stoic does not seek the absence of pain, Aponia, as the supreme good, because physical pain is an indifferent. The Stoic seeks virtue as the only good, even if virtue requires physical pain, courage, or suffering, acceptance of fate/amor fati. The Stoic accepts pain and fear as material for growth. Tranquility, apatheia, is the consequence of virtue, not the goal itself. The Stoic embraces life in its totality, including suffering, while the Epicurean seeks to minimize suffering to achieve tranquility. Philosophical contrast 2. Stoicism versus Existentialism. Stoicism also offers a clear response to the problem of finitude raised by modern existentialism. Existentialism, anguish. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger focus on the anguish caused by finitude. For them, death is being toward death, Heidegger, or the absence of inherent meaning, Sartre. Anguish is the recognition of our radical freedom to create meaning in a universe without pre-existing meaning. The Stoic response, reason and logos. Stoicism recognizes finitude, death is certain, but refutes anguish. The Stoic does not feel anguish because the universe has meaning. The logos, universal reason, gives meaning to the cosmos. The meaning of life does not need to be invented. It is virtue and life in harmony with that reason. Freedom is internal. Freedom is not in the vastness of external choices, but in the prohairesis. Finitude merely concentrates your attention on the only place where freedom exists, the virtuous choice in the present. The Stoic uses the fact of death as an anchor for ethical action, and not as a source of existential despair. The owner of your time. Most of your life is stolen by vain occupations, irrational fears, and procrastination. Your time is your only material good that cannot be replaced. If you want to live the long Stoic life, you must be the owner of every moment. Memento Mori is your daily guide. Use it to measure the quality of your actions and to reject waste. Your duty is to focus your prosoche attention on the only real time, the present, using it for the only real purpose, virtue. If you are ready to embrace the ethical urgency of mortality, leave the comment Memento Mori below. Subscribe to The Hidden Meaning and use the certainty of death to become invincible in life.